Hello and welcome to the show. This week's Will It Roll is with the Unicorn cars. That's not a car that looks like a unicorn for any of you who don't know about Forza. These are the rare cars in Forza 4. You cannot buy them from the game. The only way you can get them is to be given them by turn 10 directly. So if you win competitions that are on their forums, they did give some away as prizes in Rivals mode. You used to be able to buy them from the auction house, but I think they stopped that because basically the only people who could ever afford them were people who had hacked money into the game anyway. So these are the kind of the ultra rare cars, or some of them are rarer than others in Forza 4. Now, just after I'd filmed this, literally like 2 days after I filmed it, they started their rewards scheme. I'm not 100% sure quite how all of that works, but I ended up getting this Mines Skyline, but I'd already done all the filming for this. So yeah, the Skyline hasn't been rolled. Also, the RX-7 that you've seen in a lot of our videos, well, I rolled that earlier. I'll put a link in the description if you want to go watch that. Anyway, up first, we have got the 69 Camaro SS Coupe. This was one of the cars you could win from a certain Rivals mode for quite a while ago. Anyway, this car has the softest suspension of any vehicle I have ever driven. It's ridiculous. I've rolled, or tried to roll, many a car off this curb at sunset, and I haven't had a car that's looked less likely to roll, other than perhaps a Beetle, but that's just because it's got no speed. This thing has got just ridiculously soft suspension. I spent maybe 5 minutes before I got to the point of it's not going to do it. It's barely lifting its wheels off the ground, and then it has a rather big spin. But yeah, you're not going to roll that thing standard. There is no chance. Like a lot of the muscle cars, I did an episode on rolling the muscle cars. They're very, very hard to roll standard because they've just got such soft suspension that it is a right pain. So it was to the upgrade shop, and race suspension was put on it. And I also raised the suspension and stiffened the suspension as much as I could. You can see the first attempt wasn't particularly fantastic. It may have missed the curb a little bit. However, on the next attempt, it was looking a bit more promising. It was actually got wheels off the ground and was sliding. It didn't stop. It hasn't got any brakes particularly. But yeah, this isn't an easy car to roll. I mean, it's D class, I think. It's fairly powerful. 375 horsepower. There you go. Not particularly fast. Yeah, it's heavy. Well, actually, no, it's not as heavy as I thought it was. £3,500 pounds. It's a fairly difficult car to roll. However, I did persist, and it did sort of roll over, flipped off the wall a little bit, and yeah, there we go. Rolling it standard is never going to happen. With the upgraded suspension, it was a little bit difficult because it just doesn't have the speed, but it did roll in the end. Next, we move on to a BMW M3 GTR, and I can't remember how I got this. Don't know where this one came from. Anyway, first attempt, and I missed the curve again. I will point out that I was still using my terrible controller, which makes things really difficult when you're trying to aim precisely at the curve and the controller decides at the last minute that you're going to go left. In that case, though, it did sort of look like it would possibly roll standard, which surprised me. I mean, this isn't sort of the ultra-wide, ultra-low supercars, but it's still fairly low and fairly sporty. So I carried on. I tried a little bit longer. Actually, I have to say this car is probably one of the most deformable cars in Forza. Okay, it's not like Beam NG driving, that sort of thing, but it does actually kind of bend and body panels, yeah, deform, that kind of thing, which is pretty good. I wasn't expecting that. It's strange how some cars, like there you go, there's a massive hole in the back of it now. It's strange how some cars on here are really very deformable while others are absolutely useless. Like you can hit walls at fairly high speeds and it just does nothing. Anyway, I tried for about 10 minutes, I think, trying to roll this thing standard, and it won't do it. And again, I think this one here is because of the bodywork. I'm trying to do a bit of a super slow. No replay cameras are good for showing this. By the way, this is the best I got. You can kind of just about see there that as it starts to go over, the side skirt catches on the floor, and you can see there it's very, very close. It's really hard to show this, but yeah, it's just catching on the floor, and it's not going to roll when it's doing that. So yeah, when I realised that it was doing that, there's no point carrying on because it's never going to roll. It's just going to get caught every single time. So it was to the upgrade shop, and again, I wasn't expecting this car to be particularly tricky to roll. Now that it's got raised and stiffened suspension, because it looked like it would roll with the standard standard suspension. And sure enough, I believe this is the first attempt with the car, and there we go. And then there is an explosion of bits as everything falls off, with the exception of one wing mirror. The one wing mirror, that's really hard to say. Say wing mirror really quickly. That's surprisingly hard to say. But yes, one of them that just stayed on the car. Otherwise, I think I broke absolutely everything that's possible on the BMW. So yeah, that one, standard, no, it's not going to go. It's going to get caught, but when it's upgraded, it's fairly straightforward. Up next, we have the Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale, possibly my favourite Ferrari. It's my favourite Ferrari to drive. It's just the best handling car one of the best handling cars in the game. It was so good handling, it just wanted to grip to the road. That's the excuse. That's what happened there. This is a really, really good car to drive, and it's kind of a shame actually that this is a unicorn car, that it's not many people have it. Well, actually, this one's probably one of the more common ones. It was a prize for one of the rivals modes. If you do have it, sorry, you should really give it a go because it's a fantastic car. As far as rolling it goes, it's a supercar. It's always going to be very, very tricky. Look how low the thing is to the ground. Look how wide it is. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. I carried on for a while, but it's not really going to go. It's fast. It handles very well, but as far as rolling it goes, it's not likely. I think this is the best attempt I got out of it. Yeah, there you go. That's after, I think it's about 10. I normally try for about 5 or 10 minutes with a car before I kind of give up. With some cars, it's very obvious that it is not going to work. Like this car, I'll try for a little while, and it's fairly obvious it's not going to work. So it wasn't to the upgrade shop, because this car already has race suspension on it. So it was to the tuning shop, and it was stiffened suspension, raised ride height, and it had to have some camber. In fact, it had to have a lot of camber on it. Unfortunately, I didn't bother filming the tests for when I had the just raised and stiffened suspension, because it didn't really do very much. So yeah, the camber was necessary, but as you can see, even then, it was proving to be rather tricky. The car's so good, it doesn't want to roll. There we go. That's what I'm going to say. That's going to be my excuse for this one. It took a while with the 360 challenge. However, I did eventually get it to roll. It was a little assisted by the wall there. Not the most spectacular of rolls we've ever had, and very, very slow motion. Forza really doesn't like cars being on their roof. It was a bit assisted by the wall, but it looked like it would have rolled over anyway, even if the wall hadn't been there. So I'll take that. Yeah, not the easiest car in the world to roll, but it has rolled eventually. Now, up next, I don't like this car anymore. This is a Lamborghini Murcielago LP640. I think, I can't remember what name this thing has. It's the Unicorn Murcielago. There we go. It's some numbers and some letters after the word Murcielago. Lamborghinis have been the hardest cars I've had to roll on here. The Aventador is the only car that has sort of beaten me. When I think I was trying to roll the Aventador, it didn't technically roll off the curb, but it did roll off when it went head-on into a tyre. Well, basically the game got confused and said, I don't know what to do, and put the car on its roof. So, yeah, the Aventador was an incredibly hard car to roll, and this Murcielago is very, very similar. As you can see, it's just not going to roll. It's a bit better than the Camaro, I'll give it that. The front bumper's gone. It's a bit better than the Camaro. It actually lifts the wheel off the ground, but no, it's not going to roll standard. It is too wide and too low, and it's just never going to go. So it was to the upgrade shop, and race suspension was put on again, raised, stiffened, and there is some or much camber, and still it's not particularly cooperative. Now, Lamborghinis on Forza, I don't know what they're like in real life. I've never driven one, but in Forza they are terribly, terribly understeering because of the four-wheel drive system. And then when you do all of this to the suspension, it makes it handle even worse. It is, oh god, it was terrible. Just trying to hit the curb was really tricky because it just handled so badly. It really didn't turn very well. It also wasn't really getting on two wheels particularly well. You will notice that I very quickly give up. I don't know if I got any more. I think this is the point at which I just gave up trying to hit the thing by going through the chicanes, because that was about the best I could get it, because you can't take enough speed through there because the car understeers like mad. And yeah, you miss the curb so many. Okay, this is the last time. That's the one I meant. Yeah, that was the best attempt I had trying to go that way. The problem is that you missed the curb so many times doing that, because you couldn't get the car turned, you couldn't take enough speed through there to actually get it to work. So I ended up just aiming from this direction in the end, because yeah, it just wouldn't work. After a while, I cut out loads for this because it just did the same thing over and over again. It did manage to roll. This is the first time I think the wall has ever actually been helpful. It made it, it's twitching about on the floor there. It actually made it roll. I don't think it would have rolled if the wall hadn't been there. So the first time I've ever been thankful over the wall. Yeah, that wasn't fun. I'm not sure that's taken quite the longest of all the cars, but it certainly took a blooming long time. And up finally, we have the Ferrari 430 Scuderia, as I missed the curb again. I shouldn't have driven the 360 so early on, because that handles so well compared to absolutely everything else here, as I missed the curb again. Now, the Ferrari was given to you if you had it in Forza 3. So if you had this car in your Forza 3 game and you imported your save file, I believe you got given it for Forza 4, but you cannot buy this car from the game. As you saw there, it actually looked quite promising to roll, which it surprised me, because this is a supercar. Admittedly, it's probably not quite as big as the Lamborghini, but yeah, that was very early on as well, and that would have rolled over had the wall not been there. So the wall helped me once and screwed me over once. So okay, it's back to neutral for that area of track. Yeah, I was amazed at how far this was getting on two wheels for a supercar. This is completely standard. I haven't touched anything in it, and I was genuinely surprised at how close this thing was to rolling standard. So I spent a while with this car, and sure enough, it did roll over. It was a bit assisted by the wall, and then it's camouflaged itself behind the red tyres. Yeah, I'm really surprised that car was so easy to roll standard. Admittedly, it did have a bit of help with the wall in the final run, but it would have rolled earlier if the wall hadn't been there. So the wall at the moment is 1-0 up today. The wall has actually been useful, which is something I didn't expect to say. So there we go. That is it for rolling unicorn cars. Yeah, as I said, I'll put a link in the description if I remember. I hopefully will, to the RX-7 video if you want to see that one rolled. Because that's been in a lot of videos. It's kind of like our default car when we don't know what else to put on the screen. We have the RX-7 and the Corvette. Anyway, yes, that is everything for today. Next week's theme is... I'm not sure, actually. I'm thinking of doing another movie cars one, because a lot of people seem to want to see some more of that. So if you want to leave suggestions for movie cars you would like to see rolled, then I will have a look through, and some of them might be in the video next week. Or if you have a suggestion for another theme, if I see a particularly interesting theme, then I may end up doing that instead. However, until next time, goodbye.